What if I told you there are truths about human nature you were never supposed to know? Truths that, once seen, cannot be unseen. Truths that explain why people manipulate, betray, and deceive, even those closest to you. You see, most people live under the comforting illusion that the world is fundamentally fair, that goodness is rewarded, and that people act with pure intentions. But history tells us otherwise. And if you've ever felt blindsided, used, or betrayed, then you've brushed against this truth without fully recognizing it. Niccolo Machiavelli, one of history's most misunderstood thinkers, whispered a warning centuries ago, a warning that is still hidden in plain sight. Not because it was lost, but because most people are too afraid to face it. His words were not meant to create monsters, but to expose the monsters already walking among us. So let me speak to you directly. How many times have you trusted someone only to feel the sting of their betrayal? How many times have you given your heart, your loyalty, or your effort, only to realize that the other person saw you as nothing more than a tool, a stepping stone, or even a disposable pawn? It hurts, doesn't it? That moment when the mask slips, and you realize the person you thought you knew never truly existed. This is what Machiavelli tried to prepare us for. The cold reality of human behavior stripped of illusions. He warned us that appearances often matter more than reality, that people will act virtuous while concealing selfish intentions, and that power is rarely gentle. It is ruthless, calculated, and unapologetically self-serving. But here's the part no one tells you. Machiavelli wasn't trying to turn you into a tyrant. He wasn't whispering these truths to corrupt you. He was whispering them to protect you. Because in a world filled with wolves, blind innocence is not a virtue. It's an invitation. Let's take a step back. Imagine for a moment you are living in Florence, Italy, in the early 1500s. The city is torn by power struggles, corruption, betrayals. The rulers change not through peaceful elections, but through coups, conspiracies, and assassinations. This was Machiavelli's world, a world where trust was often a death sentence. He observed what most people would rather ignore, that human beings are not driven purely by morality, but by self-interest. That power is the currency behind almost every action, and that those who fail to recognize this end up crushed by those who do. This wasn't philosophy written in ivory towers. It was survival, carved out of blood and betrayal. Now let's bring it back to your life. Think about the relationships you've had, friends, partners, co-workers. How many of those relationships were genuine, and how many were silently fueled by hidden agendas? How many times did you project your own goodness onto someone else, believing they must be like you, only to later discover their smile was a mask? Here's the uncomfortable truth. We see others not as they are, but as we want them to be. That's why betrayal cuts so deep. It's not only the other person's deception, it's our own blindness. Machiavelli's warning is that you must pierce through appearances. Stop mistaking performance for reality. Stop assuming virtue means truth. People will often say what you want to hear, but watch their actions closely. That's where the real story is told. This is not cynicism. This is clarity. Nietzsche once said, "In individuals, madness is rare, but in groups, it is the rule." Both Nietzsche and Machiavelli understood a similar truth, that when people gather, morality bends and masks multiply. People will do things in the pursuit of approval, power, or advantage that they would never admit in solitude. And here's where psychology comes in. Modern research on social behavior, like Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments or Philip Zimbardo's prison study, show us that ordinary people can become ruthless under the right conditions. Most people aren't evil by nature. They're simply malleable, shaped by fear, authority, or opportunity. And that means you can never take someone's behavior at face value. Not entirely. Here's the twist. The truth you weren't supposed to know. The world rewards those who understand appearances more than those who embody virtue. A person who looks confident often gets chosen over the one who is competent. A leader who sounds moral will be trusted more than the one who actually is moral. And the one who plays the game, even deceptively, often rises higher than the one who refuses to play at all. This doesn't mean you should abandon morality. It means you should understand that morality alone will not protect you. Because here's the paradox. Goodness without strength becomes weakness. Kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. And innocence without awareness becomes destruction. Think about Plato's allegory of the cave. Most people live chained to shadows, mistaking illusions for reality. But when one person breaks free and sees the truth, he is often rejected when he tries to share it. People cling to illusions because illusions are comforting. Machiavelli's warning is like stepping out of the cave. You see the ugly mechanics of power, the masks, the deception. And once you see it, you can never go back. But the question is, will you use that knowledge to manipulate others, or to shield yourself from being manipulated? I want you to reflect on this. How many opportunities in your life have you missed because you assumed the world was fair? How many times have you let your silence become another person's weapon? How many times have you avoided conflict, thinking it made you noble, when in reality, it made you invisible? This is the price of ignoring Machiavelli's warning. He wrote, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, deceivers, fearful of danger, and greedy for gain." At first glance, it sounds cruel, almost unbearable to accept. But when you look closer, you realize it's not pessimism, it's preparation. Because once you accept people as they are, not as you wish them to be, you are no longer surprised when they act out of self-interest. And in that clarity, you find strength. Here is where power truly lies, not in domination, not in cruelty, but in perception. When you learn to see the game, you can choose how to play. You can recognize manipulation and step aside before it ensnares you. You can set boundaries with clarity instead of naivety. And you can navigate the world with both compassion and caution. Because Machiavelli's warning wasn't meant to strip away your humanity, it was meant to armor it. Let me leave you with this thought. You are not supposed to know these truths because knowledge makes you dangerous, not in the sense of harming others, but in the sense of no longer being easily deceived. A person who sees through masks cannot be controlled. A person who understands power cannot be toyed with. And maybe that is the true warning, that by seeing reality as it is, you will no longer fit neatly into a world built on illusions. You will walk with eyes wide open while others remain blind. And in that awareness, you carry both a burden and a gift. So I ask you, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you cling to comforting lies, or will you step into the uncomfortable freedom of truth? The choice, as always, is yours.